Hey, everybody. It's Sunday, December 8th, 2024, and it was a great week for the Montreal Canadiens. It saw Patrik Laine come back to the lineup. It saw the Canadiens get 4 out of 6 points, and it saw positivity on the ice for the first time in a couple of weeks. Let's get this started. It's time for Montreal Hockey Talk. Hey, everybody. Coach K here with another edition of Montreal Hockey Talk here on December 8th. Glad you could tune in. Of course, as we always say, because we're having a lot of fun with this now, follow us on social media. Facebook accounts is putting up all kinds of different articles from different authors all around the National Hockey League in regards to the Montreal Canadiens. We're talking during game days on Blue Sky. So if you follow that at Blue Sky, at mtlhockeytalk.bsky.social, it's in below, so just jot that down and go over. And, of course, we're right here every Sunday night at about 9-ish. Of course, sometimes we go a little bit later depending on what life throws our way. But one way or the other, every week, at least one episode. And in saying that, don't forget to please take the time to subscribe, like, and, of course, hit the notification bell, because without that, we can't grow our audience. And without growing the audience, what's the point of being here in the first place? We know you guys love us. We know you guys listen to us on a weekly basis. We appreciate all the feedback. We appreciate all the comments, good or bad. We take them all into account. And, we try to move forward. And it's speaking about moving forward. Man, what a week for the Montreal Canadiens. And it started with the return of Patrik Laine. And, regardless of the output on the ice, regardless of what he did points-wise, just his presence felt like it changed the whole dynamic of the hockey club. You watched Josh Ottawa get sent down to the minors, and right away everybody knew, okay, something's up. Laine was close. He's going to get into the lineup, keeping our fingers crossed, and then all of a sudden, bang. At the morning skate, they announced that Patrik Laine is going to make the return on Tuesday. Scores a power play goal, and the Bell Center goes completely ape shit. But more importantly, if you watch the game as closely as I do, and I can't say that you guys don't, because we have the best fan base in the world. Habs Nation is awesome. But if, from a coaching perspective anyway, when I watched that second line especially, because the first line was the first line. You've got Newhook, you've got Caulfield, you've got Suzuki. But the second line dynamic was a little interesting because everybody's been talking about how Kirby Dach is not a natural centerman. But take into account that the second line was Slafkovsky, Dach at center, Laine on the wing. And you look at it and you say to yourself, you know what, that's a pretty solid line. But Kirby Dach can't win faceoffs. In comes the coaching of Marty St. Louis. Offensive zone, okay, he'll let Kirby Dach take the draws when he needs to. But in the defensive zone, he was either putting in Jake Evans or he was putting in Christian Dvorak just to make sure he had a solid centerman out there. And then they were changing out as the puck got cleared out of the zone. But more importantly, the one thing that you saw with that line on the ice and just the team in general is a certain level of composure and control that you hadn't seen before. And that does come from the way Patrik Laine plays. And it rubbed off specifically on Juraj Slafkovsky. And, line mates talk to each other on the bench. And just in that first game, you could see that Slafkovsky was getting, on-the-job training from Patrik Laine in the sense that Laine is a big boy, lumbering speed. And when I say lumbering speed, his feet don't move like Speedy Gonzalez. He's slow in his mannerisms, but he's very fast on the ice because when that guy skates, you hear the ice scream, crunching under his blades. And it's the same for Juraj Slafkovsky. Big boy, solid presence, needs to be able to be more physical. And I think being on the right side of the puck, and I will talk about that concept a little bit later in the show, is always important. So in an offensive posture, you want to be that guy that gets in there and has strength along the boards and is able to separate man from puck. Defensive posture, you want to be the guy that does it from the opposite side where you're defending as opposed to trying to score. And in watching Laine do it, Laine was doing it not only by using his body, but by being very active with his stick and applying pressure on the puck when he needed to. And it wasn't like he was doing it constantly. You would see him skate into a situation and poof, all of a sudden he'd make one cut, one turn, stick extended. It changed the whole dynamic of what his coverage would look like. And slowly but surely, as this week progressed, And especially in practice, you could see, or through practice, I should say, you could see that Slafkovsky was trying to incorporate those same mannerisms, as was Kirby Dach. And so that reflection and balance that Laine brought to that line not only balanced that line out, it balanced the entire lineup out. In the sense that the third line finally got some kind of consistency when you look at it from the perspective of Dvorak, Josh Anderson, and Brendan Gallagher. And then the fourth line, of course, with Jake Evans, Yoel Armia, and God, I can't even remember who plays on that left wing anymore. Emil Heineman. Sorry. There's a guy you don't want to forget anyway. But, you looked at the whole dynamic of the lineup up and down, and it just looked different. And it looked more composed, and it looked more in control. And it was something the Canadiens was missing from their game in the past few weeks. The losing streaks, the big losses against the Rangers, and so on. The Canadiens just lose control. And in the game on Tuesday and Thursday versus the Islanders and the Nashville Predators, respectively, that control was there. And it was something to behold. When you look at it as a coach, you admire it because it's something that you don't see very often. And so the Canadiens come out on Tuesday. They get the 2-1 victory in overtime, and spirits are up. Laine got the goal. Everybody's raw. You watch all the videos. You listen to Laine, and just his reaction to the reception that he got from us Montreal Canadiens fans, and you could see how much he appreciated it. And then going to Thursday, another power play goal by Patrik Laine. Another goal by Cole Caulfield. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, you're looking at it and you're going, hey, we got 2 wins in a row. Monty's got another shutout. Hey, things are starting to look good. The team's playing well defensively. They're controlling the puck in their own zone. They're getting the puck out effectively. And lo and behold, boom, all is well. And that lasted for another 40 minutes through the game on Saturday versus the Washington Capitals. But then in the third, something happened. And, it could have been missed by a few people. I mentioned it on social media when I was tweeting, or for lack of a better term, tweeting on Blue Sky. But I was out there saying, you know what? The Canadiens are getting away from their game plan, and they're opening up. And in opening up and trying to get those stretch passes, because they kept on missing breakaway after breakaway after breakaway. And I made the joke about, what are they taking lessons from Thomas Plekanec? But they missed those 4 breakaways, and then the Capitals pounced. Because the Canadiens thought, we can just continue doing this, and the Capitals are going to let us do it. But the Capitals didn't. And basically, they trapped the Canadiens into trying to open up the game a little bit more, stretching their forwards out and opening up gaps in the neutral zone that the Canadiens need to control, as I say time and time again, in order to have success. They did it on Tuesday. They did it on Thursday. They did it for most of Saturday, but they got away from it, and it bit them in the ass. So, Tom Wilson, for all of us who love to hate the guy because he plays on that edge, and he's one of those players you hate to play against, but you want to have him on your team because he's just that damn good. Scores a pair of goals to give the Capitals the win with a cheek that looked like, he had just come out of the dentist's office. And kudos for him for being tough enough to get out there and play with that kind of pain. And just on a side note, how the hell did he keep getting the mouthpiece into his mouth? Because there was that kind of swelling around those teeth in the back especially. I don't see how you do it, but it was painful to watch. But nonetheless, good on Tom Wilson. Good on the Washington Capitals. They came away with that 4-2 win. But another thing that the Canadiens got back to that kind of Monty had sort of dialed back a little bit was his rebound control. His rebound control was not good in the third period. It was allowing second chance opportunities for the Capitals, and that's how those pucks ended up in the back of the net. The Canadiens pushed, couldn't quite get where they needed to be. And one of the things that you saw as well is after those breakaways, their shot output really went down the toilet. Because, again, they got away from the way they were playing, and they went back to trying to stretch the zone, trying to get more offense in transition. Being able, and this is what I'm going to explain later in like the third segment of this show, when I talk about puck management. One of the things that you need to be able to control is the way you move the puck up the ice. And it's not about controlled breakouts. It's about the thought process as a player. If you're going to keep looking as a defenseman to stretch the puck out of the zone, then you're going to look for forwards that are out in the neutral zone, hovering around the offensive blue line. And that's a good 150 feet of space that you're trying to stretch. And 9 times out of 10, that pass is not going to work. And 8 times out of those 10, you're going to give it up to the other team because those passes don't work. A few of those other times it goes for icing. But anyway, And those numbers might be off, but that's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, right, the Montreal Canadiens started to stretch and stretch and stretch, and that opened up the gap in the neutral zone that allowed the Capitals to come back, and you saw them. They always attacked the numbers. They never came one in, and that was it, or one-on-one. It was always 2-on-1, 3-on-2 against the Canadiens because the forwards are stretched too far out, and the Canadiens forwards are trying to play catch-up, and, it led to Wilson being open in the slot and defensive coverage being shoddy. Giveaways in the zone where David Savard gives up the puck right into the slot to Wilson for the game winner. Those are the mistakes that the Canadiens need to limit. And it comes down to what I talked about in puck management and reading the play. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. More importantly, they played as a team through a week. And I got to stop for a second and talk to everybody out there who continues to say that Marty St. Louis is doing a rotten job with his team. The problem is not coaching. Watch carefully. If you look at our power play, I think it's still ranked 11th in the National Hockey League. Our penalty kill, especially at home, has been almost lights out. And then you look at them 5-on-5, and they're starting to progress. And that's where their weakness was, at 5-on-5. So we all clamored that we needed a better power play. We all clamored that we needed a better penalty kill. Well, the Canadiens are there. They did that already. Whether they remain in the top 15 as far as the power play concern remains to be seen. But keep in mind, guys, and this came out during the week, and kudos to Renaud Lavoie of TVA for bringing this up. But in 225 games, Tuesday night against the Islanders was the first time in 2.5 years as a head coach of the Montreal Canadiens that Martin St. Louis had a healthy lineup. Everybody that was available was on the ice once in 225 games. So you can't turn around and blame it all on coaching. Right? You can't blame it all on, whatever the case is. It's all on Marty St. Louis. It's not. Circumstances dictate the way a guy coaches, right? And when you're coaching guys from the American Hockey League that come up to help out, or if you're coaching guys that come in last minute and try to get them to adapt to the way that you're playing, the team's going to digress. It's a normal fact. And now at the beginning of this year, just like last year, go back to when Kirby Dach started the season. Everybody was excited. Everybody was healthy. Everything was good. 4 periods in, shit. Dach's got a messed up knee. And the same held true. Everybody held their breath when Patrik Laine got hit by Parry. And we were like, shit, here we go again with another guy with a big knee injury. He's going to be out all season. Luckily, that wasn't the case. It was a very bad sprain and a bruise. And he managed to remain without having to go for surgery. And from when you could see, he's got to work on his conditioning a little bit more because you could see on some shifts he's going really hard. On other shifts, he slows down a little bit. That's going to come. Instead of a week or two, he's going to have his game legs and he's going to be fine. But there's an equality that's created when you have a healthy lineup, when you don't have to worry about who's in, who's out. It's like a minor league coach that goes to a hockey tournament while his kids have exams. Half the kids can make it, the other half can't. And you end up with a team that has maybe, 10 players out of 15 or 18. I've done it. And it's hard to do. It's hard to manage. It's hard to get through that particular situation. So for Marty St. Louis to come out of that and for the team to look pretty much the way he wanted to look coming out of training camp, that's your coaching. That's where you say to yourself, oh, the player that was expected to be there is back. And all of a sudden, there's balance. The team looks like it's playing the way it was meant to play. Well, that means the coach is doing his job. That means that there was a particular vision at the beginning of the year that the coach put in place, a particular concept, if you will, because he doesn't use systems to get the players to play a certain way, and it's starting to come back. And the players are starting to adapt to it, and the players are starting to play better. Look at the standings right now, and the Canadiens are a mere 5 points out of a wild card spot. Only 5. They're no longer in the cellar. They're 5 points up on the Blackhawks, and they're 5 points out of a playoff berth. Keep that in mind. Doesn't mean they're going to get there, but it's only 5 points, and it's doable because other teams go into bad streaks. The Canadiens have had a couple of them already. Well, other teams are due too, and the Eastern Conference is a little bit of a crapshoot right now. Other than the top teams, everybody else, they're all over the place. The Rangers are struggling. The Devils are on and off. I mean, nobody's consistent right now, other than maybe the Capitals, who, look like they were primed for the picking in the second game of a back-to-back, or whether you're looking at some of the other teams in the Eastern Conference, like Toronto or the Panthers or, the Hurricanes. All those teams are consistent, right? All those teams are where they need to be. They have their ups and downs. The Devils are up and down. They sit second in the Metropolitan, but, the Devils can be had. The Rangers are struggling. The Flyers are an absolute shit show. And the Flyers are just 4 points up on the Habs. That's 2 games, guys. That's all that is. And 5 points at 2.5 games. So let's level off on the panic here. Let's level off on trying to get Marty St. Louis out of the city, because right now the team is playing exactly the way he envisioned it playing coming out of training camp. So let's get a little bit of consistency. Let's see how the team plays tomorrow. Let's see how the team plays later on in the week, because they've got 3 games again this week. And then reserve judgment, because right now you've got a healthy lineup. Everybody's there, right? You've also got added contributions from guys like Emil Heineman. You've got Cole Caulfield, who sits a goal off of 20 already. I mean, there are things happening to this team that were supposed to happen a year ago that didn't, because of what? Kirby Dach's injury. And didn't happen earlier because of what? Because of Patrik Laine's injury. Now, everything's stable. Everything's balanced. Hold your horses. We're going to be fine. So stop blaming Marty St. Louis for a loss on Saturday night. That was because the players got away from the game plan that was there. For 40 minutes, they were solid. For the last 20, they were crap. Why? Stretch passes. And that's not on the coach. That is on the players making bad decisions with the puck. I'll get to that later. Now, moving on. We talked about him straight off the cuff, and now we're going to talk about the storybook return of Patrik Laine. Ottawa goes down to the American Hockey League. Patrik Laine is announced as in the lineup on Tuesday night, and everybody was either sitting in their seats at the Bell Center or locked on a TV. And by the way, there were a lot of empty seats to start that hockey game on Tuesday night. Shame on you, Habs fans. I know the team hasn't been playing well, but if you want the team to get out of a rut, the one thing that they need more than anything else is your passion. They need you in your seat at the game, watching, cheering, yelling, screaming. That didn't happen on Tuesday night against the Islanders. And with who? Patrick Waugh in the building. Like, come on. You've got Patrick Waugh behind the bench. You got Patrik Laine back in the lineup. An icon and, the most anticipated player to join the Canadiens since I don't know who. I can't even think back to it. And what happens? During the first period, a lot of the lower bowl was empty. It was shameful. But getting back to the game itself, Patrik Laine got his first touch of the puck, and Canadiens fans did what Canadiens fans do. They cheered for him the minute he touched the puck, because it's something that we've wanted for the entirety of the summer since he was acquired, and it was something that we wanted ever since his injury. And we watched him out there, and you watched him skate, and everybody was out there biding time, thinking, oh my God, I hope he doesn't make a bad turn. Oh my God, I hope he doesn't take a bad hit. And you know what? He did. And he still looked fine after that. And it wasn't because somebody skated into him dirty. It was because he collided with another player. It looked kind of bad, but he was fine. But then you look at him on the power play. And what's the one thing that he brings to the power play is that major league shot. And he proved it. First chance he got, let it rip, scored. And it's something that the Canadiens desperately needed, because if you watch the Canadiens power play, despite the fact that it was still going at a very good clip, the one thing that they were missing was shooting. You're not getting shots from the point. You weren't getting as many shots as you'd like from Cole Caulfield because they were loading that side of the ice, and that limited your ability to get shots from everywhere else. But with Patrik Laine on the power play, you've got that shot on the left side. You've got the bumper position available. You've got the opposite side shot where most of the time you've got either Caulfield or you've got Suzuki, and you've got, Hudson at the blue line, and you've got Slafkovsky in tight down low. That's a nice looking power play unit. And that as a power play unit up until this point looks very, very good. Moving the puck, creating opportunities, changing positions, cycling the puck, just being able to create offensive opportunities. I'd like to see them shoot a little bit more from the point. And I'm not asking for a big clapper out of Sheldon Surrey or a Vladimir Malahov or PK Subban. I'm not talking about those simple wrist shots that go to the net from the blue line that create different scoring opportunities, rebound opportunities, chances in front of the net, deflections in front. We see other teams do it all the time, but for some reason, the Canadiens are having trouble with it. But I think with the addition of Patrik Laine and his ability to shoot the puck and shoot it well and shoot it accurately, it's going to change the whole dynamic of the power play. It's going to get better rather than getting worse. But the one thing, like I said, that you watched Patrik Laine do out there was bring poise, not only from the offensive side of the puck, but defensively, where he was in proper position in his own zone. He was in good back forechecking position in the offensive zone to be able to recuperate pucks and take them away from the opposition. And, and like I said, it rubbed off on Slafkovsky. He started to do it. And that's something that we've been asking him to do all season long. And then you watch Kirby Dach. And Kirby Dach has slowly been getting better and better as the weeks have progressed, including at the faceoff dot, where Marc Bureau has been brought in by the Montreal Canadiens, one of the best faceoff takers in Canadiens history, along with Guy Carbonneau and Yannick Perreault. And Bureau was out there working with the guys at practice, teaching him the small little tricks that it takes to win faceoffs in different situations. And the important part about this is that Bureau is a right-handed shot. So it falls into the wheelhouse of Kirby Dach, who's also right-handed, because the angles are different when you take faceoffs right-handed rather than left, and your positioning of your feet is different, and all of that is extremely important when you're taking faceoffs. It's not just swiping at the puck. That's what it used to be back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Now it's about pivoting your hips, using your shoulders to separate players from pucks, getting leverage on your stick and putting weight on it to be able to move the puck with conviction. And if you can't move the puck, then you have to have your feet in the right place to be able to kick it over to a forward or have somebody come in off the wing to pick it up and send it back to the point. Oftentimes, that's what we see. We see players get tied up and the puck is moved by a winger back to the blue line and creating offense. And we're starting to see those little things coming from Dach. Now, Dach does need to work on his strength. His legs are nowhere near as strong as they need to be, obviously because of the injury he had last year. But give it time. But getting back to the whole Laine effect, it's giving him confidence to do things on the ice that he wasn't doing earlier because he was playing wing, because he was playing with other players that wanted to have the puck. When you are playing with a guy like Suzuki or you're playing with Cole Caulfield, the idea is to get them the puck. For Suzuki to create offense, for Caulfield to shoot the puck. And then the role changes for Kirby Dach at that point because he's no longer that, guy in between, especially if he's playing on the wing, that can create offense but shoot the puck as well. When he's playing at center, he is that guy. Okay, you expect the wingers to be more shoot first when it comes to mentality. But your sentiment is supposed to be the catalyst for your offense. And Kirby Dach is starting to become that catalyst. You watch the puck distribution. Watch his ability to read the play. Watch where he puts the puck as far as his teammates are concerned. And you're starting to see the old Kirby Dach come forward. Okay? This kid hasn't had an easy career. 1 year broken wrist, then the knee. It hasn't been easy for him in the first few seasons of his life. But he's going to get there. The idea is to get him stronger. And the idea is to get him on the ice with players that play a similar style of game. Dach is a tall player. He does need to put on a little bit more weight to be a little bit more similar to his line mates. But at the end of the day, he brings those same type of skills and dynamic to the line. And the line as a whole can play a very structured game that benefits any player on that line. And so having Patrik Laine on the ice creates that. But then more importantly, it also creates a certain level of confidence in the other lines. Because now teams are going to look at the second line just as dangerous as the first because of Laine's presence. So that's going to create opportunities not only for the first line, but also for the third and fourth line, where you've had contributions from guys like Armia, and you've had contributions from Evans and Emil Heineman. Brendan Gallagher of late has not been quite as productive as he was earlier on in the season, but he's having probably the best year he's had in the last three. Josh Anderson looks like he's super comfortable in the role that he's been given as far as, being out there killing penalties and being out there and trying to create offense with his body as opposed to with his stick and shooting pucks. And he's getting his opportunities. And if he wasn't getting them, then people could bitch and complain all they want. But he's getting opportunities. He hasn't buried them, but he's getting them. But more importantly, his game is not being tallied up based on points. It's being tallied up based on performance. And right now he's performing extremely well, as is Brendan Gallagher. I am a little bit disappointed in Christian Dvorak. As I've tweeted before, Dvorak's stick is where offense goes to die. And it needs to be better because he has the ability to be better. So he's got to get that game going. But at the end of the day, he wins faceoffs in important situations for Montreal. So he's got a roll. I'm okay with it for now. Later on the road, if the first and second line start to struggle a little bit, then maybe I can expect a little bit more from Dvorak. But right now, you look at the third line role, you look at the fourth line role, they're bringing their contributions. The first two lines are starting to get a little bit more structure and continuity and consistency, and that's the most important part. Laine brings that continuity that this team has been missing since the beginning of the season. And I think in the coming weeks, the last three, I should say, of 2024, actually 4 weeks, what am I talking about? But anyway, 3.5. Let's call it 3.5. The Canadiens have another, 10 games left in December. In those 10 games, if they can come out anywhere between 14 to 16 points, they'll be where the Canadiens expect them to be, and that's in the mix. And their competition, okay, you could say there's an opportunity there. Because if I go through the entire month, you've got Ducks, Penguins, Jets, Sabres, Red Wings twice, Blue Jackets, Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, and then Vegas to end 2024. So there's opportunity there for the Canadiens to get those points. Whether or not they do it remains to be seen. But as long as the continuity and the consistency remains from here till the end of December, watch the Canadiens make a push. Because I'm confident that the way the team is playing right now, the push is going to be there. Now, let me talk about that big subject, the word puck management, because it can be interpreted in different ways. Puck management isn't about where you're passing the puck or what type of breakout you use or any type of strategy. Puck management comes down to a player's ability to be able to have poise with the puck, make proper reads on the ice, and make smart decisions with the puck. And now, a lot of that has to do with player positioning. More of that has to do with player confidence. And one of the things that this team lacked because of the fact that it was losing was player confidence. So you were watching them grip their sticks a little too hard. You were watching them make mistakes as far as, trying to make long passes to get the puck out of the zone. And you were watching guys get nervous with the puck. Justin Barron is one of those guys that in his own zone, it's like he's got a hot potato on his stick. He doesn't read things fast enough, and he gets himself into bad positions very often. And more often than not, the puck ends up in the back of the net when he's on the ice. Yes, he can contribute offensively, but those contributions are few and far between. If you're going to be a defenseman, your first job out there is to go and make sure that you take care of your own zone. And Barron hasn't been able to do that because of the fact that he's been missing the poise. He's been missing the ability to move the puck effectively. And that goes for other guys too. Arbor Xhekaj earlier in the year was making the same type of mistakes where he was not looking where he was putting the puck. He was thinking about putting the puck in an open area, which is what you're being taught in junior, and then expecting your teammates to be able to get it out of the zone. But if your teammate's not there, you're in trouble. And that's what was getting Xhekaj into trouble. You look at Caden Gooley. He was making those same mistakes as well. Jaden Struble, and especially Mike Matheson. Mike Matheson was trying to do too much at the ice up to about a couple of weeks ago. And so with him trying to do too much, he was creating turnovers, and the Canadiens were just taking it and taking it and taking it to the point where they couldn't generate any offense anymore. And you were seeing those low shot outputs. I think it was 13 that they had. What was it? Was it against Boston on Sunday? I can't even remember what game it was, but 13 shots on goal for an entire game. Everybody was pissed. And that doesn't come from your coach. Again, it comes from the player's ability on the ice to read what they've got and use their own talents to be able to move the puck. Every defenseman on this team, whether you look at Matheson, Savard, Gooley, Barron, Xhekaj, Struble, Hudson, they can all move their feet. They all have an innate ability to skate the puck. For Christ's sake, David Savard had a breakaway coming out of the penalty box the other day. You don't see that from a guy like David Savard, but that just goes to show you his ability to skate if he needs to. Now, the Canadiens have that ability to skate the puck. You watch Lane Hudson move the puck out of his own zone. You're not going to see him make a puck from behind his own goal line into the neutral zone. It's very rare that he does it. The only time he does it is when you see a stretch available to a guy up front. But more often than not, you see him start to skate the puck up, and he'll get at least to the hash marks before he distributes the puck into the neutral zone. The same can be said very often for a guy like Mike Matheson. But the one thing that you watched very closely earlier on in the season is the guys, as far as the defensive were concerned, were not skating the puck up, and they were trying to make long passes from behind the red line without even moving their feet. They were standing still. And when you're standing still, the reads just aren't available to you. The options aren't available to you. And so it takes a level of poise, like I talked about with Patrik Laine, what he brings to the offense, that you need on defense to be able to move the puck out effectively. Lane Hudson has that poise in droves. And whether he makes mistakes or not, he makes up for it because he makes an effort to fix the mistakes that he makes. When you look at guys like Mike Matheson, you look at guys like David Savard, and you look at guys like Struble and Jacky, the minute they make those mistakes, they struggle to cover because they don't anticipate what could happen if they miss a certain pass or if the puck goes in the wrong place. So it's one of those things that Lane Hudson does extremely well. So if you watch the last 2 weeks of Canadiens hockey, especially with the return of Laine and especially with, the way they've been playing of late, one of the things that you can notice up until, again, that third period against the Washington Capitals is that the forwards are not fully outstretched into the neutral zone. They come back in bunches. There's at least two of them swinging through the defensive zone to give the options to defensemen. And so once you get those options, you have to have enough poise and enough wherewithal to pick the right option in order to get the puck out effectively. That's puck management. When the puck gets to the offending player, so on offense, to the wingers or the center, then it's up to them to be able to read how to get into the zone effective enough where they're keep maintaining possession of the puck and creating offense at the minute they get across the blue line. The Canadiens have done that extremely well of late. Again, it comes down to the fact that they're getting into the zone in numbers with support from their defensemen because they're tight. They're not spread apart by 100 feet where the defenseman is trying to play catch-up, and as he plays catch-up, the puck's turned over and comes back the other way into the defensive zone. That's where the Canadiens were getting caught. That's where they were having trouble. That wasn't happening. So the wins against the Islanders, the win against the Nashville Predators, you go back and watch those games, and you watch the Canadiens' defense manage the puck extremely well. The Canadiens' offense manage the puck extremely well and manage the neutral zone extremely well. That's where the Canadiens' coaching comes in and creates that aura of, like, what do I do generally? Because, again, Marty St. Louis doesn't teach systems. It's not structured like it was 10, 15 years ago. The game's changing, right? I, for example, as I've mentioned before, I work with a junior team in the USPHL. And the one thing that our head coach, former NHLer Sean Anderson, says is that he doesn't have a structured breakout. He just tells the guys what he expects. And then the players do what they want. He doesn't have a structured power play. Okay? He tells them what he expects, and the players do it. Okay? So if you can do that at junior, you could do that at the National Hockey League level because the skill set is much higher and much more advanced. So you can expect that from those players as well, where the breakout doesn't have to be structured a certain way, but certain movements can be expected because that's what you're telling the players to do. If I come up to you as an individual, as a player, and I say, okay, when the puck's in our zone, I want at least two forwards back in the zone to support the defense, to be able to get it out freely, and have one guy stretching the zone out at center. That's four of my guys. And I know for a fact that one of their defensemen is going to remain as far back as they can in order to cover that man that I'm stretching in the neutral zone. So now you've got 4-on-4 coming up the ice, opening up a little bit of space because it's not all five guys at the same time, right? There's the whole idea of the breakout. It's a concept. I'm not telling you to pass right or left. I'm not telling you to do whatever. It's just that if a defenseman comes out behind the net on the left-hand side, okay, you have one forward that swings in that same direction. The opposite side defenseman takes the front of the net position to be an option to distribute the puck. Then the other forward swings over to the other side so that the puck can go either here and there, or here and here, or here and up. Try to visualize it. But 4 different options for a defenseman. F1, F2, your D partner, or regroup. Or stretch. 5 options. So you've got F1, F2, your defensive partner, the stretch pass, and your regroup to reset the breakout. 5 different options that you have when you have players swinging through the zone. If those options get limited and you don't have the forwards coming back, then you're stuck with your partner, sending the puck up deep, or regrouping. Regrouping is like going back behind your net and saying, whoops, I got nothing. And then waiting and waiting. And we see that often where defensemen are waiting. Why? Because they're waiting for support from other players on the ice. We didn't see that often this week. And so the Canadiens' puck management was much better in the sense that they were coming up to the ice clustered, controlling the puck, not giving it up, and not allowing for giveaways and turnovers to come back the other way into the offensive zone. It happens. It happened maybe 5 or 6 times as opposed to double digits as it was a few weeks ago. So there's marked improvement in that sense. And if the Canadiens continue to improve from that perspective and continue to bring the puck into the offensive zone with control, with poise, with options, then you're going to see better success from the Canadiens. And you can say to yourself, yeah, Costa doesn't know what he's talking about. No, I do. Because when you don't have proper puck management and you just have ideas and you just have guys out there that are doing whatever somebody tells them to do like robots, your offense becomes stagnant, your offense becomes stale, and your offense becomes predictable. Right now, what kind of offense did the Canadiens run? Put it in the comments. Tell me. You could tell me that they run a 1-3-1 power play. Sure. What kind of defense do they run? You could tell me it's man-to-man. Sure. What else can you tell me about their offense? Nothing. You can't tell me in a given situation how they're going to attack the offensive zone. They're not going to come in and chip the puck deep. It's not Michel Therrien's team anymore. It's not Claude Julien's team anymore. They carry the puck in. If they find an opportunity to chip it in, it's a soft chip so they can get in and get on it. Or, if you watch very carefully, if there's no way to get the puck into the zone, they'll hammer it around the boards, have 2 guys on the forecheck on the opposite side to be able to go in and retrieve the puck, and then they get control of the puck. They're doing all the little things right this week. And so that's why the hockey looked different. And it wasn't what we saw in previous weeks. Maintain that type of puck management idea. The sense of getting in there and clustering, coming up together, making proper reads with the puck, opening yourself up to giving options to your players to be able to get the puck out more effectively, in control, and to create that offense. And once you do that, the team has success, and everybody's like, oh, wow, where was this all seasons? Well, it was a little bit on the wayside because you didn't have that control, that poise, that leadership that a guy like a Patrik Laine brings to the ice, where whether you watch them with the Jets or whether you watch them with Columbus, Laine always comes back into his own zone and loops through. He never stretches the zone unless he's told to. But 99% of the time, Laine is back in his zone, making himself available as a passing option. And that rubbed off on his teammates. And that's why you saw structure and control. And you also saw the minute the Canadiens got away from it, it bit him in the ass. So, let's see what bodes as we move forward. Now, if the trend continues, we can expect similar results this week as we saw last week from the Montreal Canadiens. And if you look at their opposition, they got the Ducks on Monday, another one of those prime games, which I love watching, by the way. And then you've got the Penguins on Thursday and the Jets on Saturday. Now, if I look at the standings for a second, the Winnipeg Jets, of course, sitting second in the Central, and the Penguins right now are sitting, where are they? They're sitting 3 points up on the Canadiens now. Both teams having played 26. It's a huge game for the Canadiens, right? Especially against the Penguins, right? The Ducks game is going to be very important. It's a winnable game. The Ducks right now are even in points as the Montreal Canadiens. So it's a winnable hockey game. The question is whether or not the Canadiens are going to be the Canadiens we saw last week or the Canadiens we saw prior to Laine's return. I think they're going to be the Canadiens we saw last week. I think if they watch the video on Saturday night and they see the mistakes they made in the third period as far as opening up, trying to stretch the ice as opposed to coming up controlled with proper puck management, they're going to have success against the Ducks. I have no doubt. You look at the Penguins. The Penguins are a little bit of a different animal with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, but the first time they played the Canadiens, the game was winnable. They screwed the pooch because they tried to open it up. If they control a little bit better and they manage the way they play the game, I see those being 2 points that the Canadiens put in their pocket. The Saturday game against the Jets in Winnipeg, that's always a tough one because that Winnipeg crowd is the X factor. But the Winnipeg Jets also have Connor Hellebuck, and they play extremely well at home. So, can the Canadiens get another 4 out of 6 points next week? I believe they can. But it's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of team play. One thing that I'd like to see a little bit more of next week as well is drawing a few more penalties than taking. And, I think John Tortorella was right in the sense that maybe the penalty against Pastrnak on Saturday was an actual trip, and John shouldn't have lost it on that. But the first hook where the player barely got touched with a stick and went down like he got shot, and he was right. And I think the officials need to do a better job of identifying penalties as opposed to just calling whatever happens because, he fell, penalty. And that's happening a lot. And, there's got to be some kind of accountability there when it comes to the officials. Because right now there's a lot of mistakes being made. And I think there's a fear that the officials have right now that they're going to miss a call that's going to cost the team a game. But by the same token, they're making calls that are costing teams games. So I hope that the Canadiens can draw a little bit more. Because one of the things that you don't see the Canadiens do is fall frivolously, right? They make efforts. They go out there. They work their tail off. You don't see guys go down unless they do get tripped or hooked or whatever the case is. A lot of other teams, you see them embellish a little bit. You could tell that those guys should be strong enough to be able to work through some of these checks or to avoid falling down, but they do anyway. And so if the Canadiens were to draw a few more penalties, I think it would be beneficial to them. So work a little bit harder. Dig a little bit more. Try to get guys to take penalties. And I'm not talking about going in and digging at the net after the whistle blows, stuff like that. I'm talking about on the boards, work a little bit harder to get the pucks out. The guys aren't falling down anymore. And, that's a good thing in one sense, but it's also a bad thing because those easy penalties that get called for other teams don't get called for us. And so we don't get as many power play opportunities as, say, some of the other teams in the National Hockey League do. It's a fine line, right? And I don't want to blame the officials because there's enough pressure on them as it is, but there's got to be a better way. I mean, you saw Kelly Sutherland's call the other day, which was a horseshit call that shouldn't have never been made. I mean, there's got to be some kind of balance. And, the coaches say it all the time. It's going to balance out over the season. And you know what? I get that. It normally does. But right now, it looks a hell of a lot more one-sided for the opposition than it does for the Montreal Canadiens. It's maddening when you look at it, right? It's one of those things that you want to see change. The same way you want to see the Canadiens play a different style of hockey, which we haven't been seeing. And one of the things I want to see as well is I want to see, us get away from, the whole, the U.S. didn't take Cole Caulfield. The U.S. didn't take Nick Suzuki. Okay, congratulations to Laine and Armia for getting on to Team Finland. And congrats to Sam Montembeault for getting on to Team Canada for the Four Nations Cup. But is it really that important to anybody other than the players? It's not important to me. It's not an Olympics. It's not, any type of competition that has any relevance to me. It's the Four Nations Cup. It's a new thing that the NHL put together. It's like another World Cup of hockey type thing, except only with 6 teams because the Russians aren't available. So, I get it. Okay, you're going to have this little competition. It's important for you to represent your country. I don't think Sam Montembeault should be there, if I'm being honest. I think his play last year probably deserved to give him a look, but I think that his game this year has not been anywhere near as strong as it was last year. And there are things that he needs to work on that he's gotten weaker on, like his rebound control, like the size he plays in the net has to be better. It was this week. It hasn't been in other weeks. So, and that it goes without saying that Yoel Armia, okay, it's not like the Finns have an abundance of players in the National Hockey League to make that team. That's the whole reason why Patrik Laine is going to be on Team Finland. He's played 2 games so far this season. 3, actually, excuse me, if you count Saturday as well. He's played 3 games in the last 2 years, and he makes Team Finland. So it kind of tells you where this competition is. It's not good. It's going to be nice to watch because the best players are going to be out there playing for their respective countries. But again, it's not going to mean anything, right? To me, I'd rather see our players out, resting, and getting ready for a possible playoff push or, the trade deadline than I would want to see them in a competition. But let's say, for example, somebody gets injured. That's trade bait if I'm another team. Because, okay, the Canadiens don't have a lot of representation. But another team has a player out there that's on the Four Nations roster that gets injured. And they were thinking about moving him before the trade deadline. What happens? And that's kind of what I worry about, right? With an all-star game, it's a little different. With the Olympics, it's a little different. There's the same risk, but the Olympics have a little bit more importance to them than this Four Nations stupidity. And everybody's getting excited over it. Personally, I couldn't give a rat's ass. Okay? It doesn't mean anything. It's not one of those competitions that gets me riled up classically. It's not a Canada Cup. It's not a World Cup of hockey. It's the Four Nations Cup. I don't know what more I could say about it. Does it make you excited? I don't give a shit. I really don't. It doesn't augment anything as far as I'm concerned. It's another cash grab by the National Hockey League. Okay, you want to bring your revenues up. I get it. But you're going to take our best players and put them in a lineup for a competition where they may or may not get injured. I don't know. But let's hope, getting away from that, getting back to our Montreal Canadiens before we close the show out, let's hope this week the Canadiens trend continues. Take care of the puck. Move the puck up the ice as a group. Attack as a group. And attack with multiple options. And they're going to continue to have success. So, one last reminder for all of you out there, once again, like the show, subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell, and please, on game nights, go to Blue Sky, follow at mtlhockeytalk.bsky.social, and get involved in the conversation. We have a blast. And Blue Sky is a very, very family-friendly, personable place to be able to talk hockey without having all these, other ingrates in there that make social media uncomfortable. So far, it's been an extremely comfortable and welcoming place to be able to sit there and talk hockey. And I love the banter and I love the back and forth. One more thing, shout out, okay, to J.D. LaGrange. Okay, so you can find him either on Twitter or on bsky at jdlagrange.bsky.social. He writes for the Sick Podcast Network. An amazing follow. So make sure you go out there and make that follow, guys. He follows me here on Montreal Hockey Talk. Follow him as well. Great insight to the game and a great guy to talk to as well on social media. Let's hope for another Hab week. Go Habs, go. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye for now.